Before Dracula stalked the night, J. Sheridan Le Fanu whispered through the halls of haunted mansions and ancient chapels, quietly inventing the modern ghost story. Welcome to the Vault of Lost Tales, resurrecting the authors that time tried to bury. Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu was born in 1814 in Dublin, Ireland, into a family steeped in both faith and fiction. His father was a clergyman, his mother a writer, and the household was filled with both sermons and stories. Though he trained in law at Trinity College, the courtroom never quite held the same allure, as candle-lit corridors and things that go bump in the night. At just 15, he penned his first ghost story, an early hint that shadows would be his lifelong companions. He grew up amid crumbling estates, superstitious servants, and the lingering fog of Irish folk belief. These childhood experiences soaked into his bones and his pain. Every breeze through a broken window, every creaking floorboard, transformed into a harbinger of dread. Le Fanu didn't just write ghost stories. He whispered them, half heard through keyholes and behind heavy velvet curtains. Joseph Le Fanu didn't need jump scares. His ghosts whispered, and his monsters waited. He was the master of quiet horror, a genre where the fear doesn't leap at you, it seeps in. His stories unfold like mist creeping through a locked door, subtle, patient, and impossible to stop once it starts. In tales like Green Tea, The Familiar, and Shalkan the Painter, the terror builds slowly, layer upon layer of unease, until it coils around the reader like a cold, unseen hand. His spirits don't shriek, they watch. His dread doesn't explode, it accumulates. And then there's Carmilla, his most haunting work. Long before Dracula rose from his coffin, Carmilla prowled the Gothic shadows as one of literature's first female vampires. More than a monster, she was sensual, tragic, and predatory all at once, setting the stage for every seductive vampire tale that followed. After the sudden and tragic death of his wife in 1858, Le Fanu withdrew from the world like a character from one of his own stories. Grief wrapped around him like a shroud, and he became a near-permanent fixture in his shadowed home on Dublin's Merrion Square. He kept the curtains drawn, wrote through the night by gaslight, and received almost no visitors. To the neighbors he became a myth in his own lifetime. The invisible prince, a figure glimpsed only in silhouette or spoken of in hushed tones. But behind those closed doors, with only his sorrow and spectres for company, he conjured some of the most enduring horror fiction of the 19th century. It was as though the deeper he retreated from the living, the clearer he heard the dead. His solitude didn't silence him, it amplified the ghosts. Le Fanu died in 1873, but his influence only deepened, like footsteps sinking into soft earth. He became a guiding spirit in the Gothic revival, a name whispered by candlelight among the greats who followed. M.R. James, the father of the English ghost story, openly revered him, calling Le Fanu the master. Bram Stoker, also Irish and raised on Le Fanu's tales, drew heavily from Carmilla when crafting Dracula. Even Henry James borrowed his atmospheric restraint and psychological tension for The Turn of the Screw. His legacy isn't flashy, but it's everywhere. In haunted mansions, in unnerving silences, in the lingering doubt that maybe you're not alone. Modern horror, from literary fiction to elevated horror films, still drinks from Le Fanu's well of quiet dread. He taught us that the most terrifying thing isn't the monster you see, it's the presence you suspect. And today, every creaking floorboard and whispering hallway in horror fiction carries the echo of his pen, a ghost who still writes in silence. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.